He'd tell a friend this straight up: everything starts and ends in the mind. No shortcuts, no magic tricks. When thought is controlled, life starts to make sense financially and emotionally. Auto-responsibilidad kicks in the moment someone realizes they're not broke, anxious, or stuck by accident. It's usually the result of unmanaged impulses, scattered focus, and emotional decisions made on autopilot. Once thought is disciplined, choices change. Spending becomes intentional. Debts stop being emotional band-aids, and money finally gets direction. A mente inhabitual isn't loud or arrogant. It's calm, aware, and grounded in conscientia. That's where control emotional shows up in real life, like walking away from an unnecessary purchase or saying no to short-term pleasure to protect long-term prosperidad. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. And yeah, it requires disciplina, reflection profunda, and the courage to admit past mistakes without excuses. He'd also explain that controlled thinking isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. Anyone can feel motivated on payday, but real mentalidad forte shows up when bills pile up and fear whispers bad advice. That's when controle de impulsos and silencio estratégico matter most. Instead of reacting, the disciplined mind pauses, analyzes, and responds with consistency. He'd remind them that money problems often aren't income problems, they're thinking problems. A wandering mind creates wandering finances. But when foco becomes a habito, even small incomes start producing crecimiento pessoal and stability. Thought control is choosing reflection over reaction, planning over panic, and responsibility over blame. It's a quiet shift, almost invisible, but it changes everything from career decisions to how one handles pressure at home. From there, he'd lean in and say this: power doesn't shout, it whispers. That's forza silenciosa. People with controlled thoughts don't need to prove anything. They move with persistence and resiliencia. They don't chase every trend or quick win. Instead, they build routines that protect their energy, their money, and their peace. When a person learns to govern their thoughts, they stop being manipulated by marketing, social pressure, or emotional spending. They stop outsourcing decisions to moods. That's where poder interior grows. It's the moment someone realizes they can feel fear and still act wisely, feel desire and still delay gratification. Thought control is the foundation of financial maturity, because every smart decision begins long before money leaves the wallet. He'd probably smile and add a touch of humor, saying something like, "Look, nobody goes broke overnight. They think their way there, one undisciplined choice at a time." And the opposite is true. Prosperidad is usually boring at first. It's built on consistency, quiet habits, and daily discipline that no one applauds. Controlled thinking means choosing to invest instead of impress, to save instead of show off, to plan instead of complain. It's learning that growth doesn't come from intensity alone, but from steady repetition. That's why reflection profunda at the end of the day matters. Asking simple questions like, did my choices today move me forward or hold me back, keeps the mind sharp and the path clear. As he gently transitions, he'd remind them that thought control isn't a talent you're born with, it's a skill you train. Just like muscles, the mind responds to repetition, awareness, and intention. Today's controlled thought becomes tomorrow's disciplined action. And once someone understands the absolute power behind governing their own thinking, the next step becomes unavoidable. Learning how to train the mind to actually obey clear objectives instead of running wild on emotion and impulse. He'd explain this like a mentor who's seen people sabotage great plans with small daily choices. Training the mind isn't about motivation. Motivation comes and goes. It's about auto-responsibilidade and disciplina applied when no one's watching. A mente inhabitual is built when objectives stop being wishes and start becoming non-negotiables. He'd say that the mind obeys clarity, not confusion. When goals are vague, spending gets emotional, careers drift, and decisions are made for comfort instead of crescimento pessoal. But when objectives are written, reviewed, and emotionally anchored, the mind begins to align. That's where foco turns into a habito. The person stops asking, "How do I feel today?" and starts asking, "What does my goal require right now?" That shift alone strengthens control emotional and creates consistency in actions that slowly shape prosperidade. He'd then walk through a practical example. Someone wants financial stability but keeps scrolling through online stores at night, convincing themselves it's deserved. A trained mind catches that moment. It uses control de impulsos and silencio estratégico, pauses the emotion and redirects attention to the long-term plan. He'd stress that this isn't about deprivation, it's about awareness and conscientia. Training the mind means creating systems that protect decisions, like automatic savings, spending limits, and routines that reduce temptation. The mind learns obedience through repetition. Every time someone follows the plan instead of the impulse, they reinforce mentalidad forte and resiliencia. Over time, the mind stops resisting and starts cooperating, because it recognizes the pattern of reward that comes from disciplined choices. From there, he'd emphasize that obedience doesn't mean rigidity, it means alignment. When the mind understands the why behind an objective, persistence becomes easier. He'd remind them that most people quit goals not because they're hard, but because they're emotionally disconnected from them. Training the mind involves daily reflection profunda, revisiting the reasons behind financial goals, career, moves, and personal boundaries. That reflection fuels poder interior and transforms discipline from force into identity. The mind starts to see consistency as safety, not sacrifice. And once that happens, decisions become simpler. Less debate, less noise, more direction. That's the quiet strength behind real financial growth. He'd also point out that environment matters. A mind can't obey objectives if it's constantly surrounded by chaos, negativity, or comparison. Training includes choosing what information enters the mind, what conversations get attention, and what habits get reinforced. This is forza silenciosa in action. Turning off unnecessary noise, avoiding impulsive influences, and protecting focus are acts of self-respect. He'd say that successful people don't have stronger willpower. They've simply designed their lives to support discipline. The mind follows structure. Give it clarity, repetition, and emotional meaning, and it will follow directions almost automatically. As he transitions, he gently reminds them that this training doesn't happen overnight. It's built choice by choice, day by day, through consistency and small wins. Once the mind learns to obey objectives, something deeper begins to happen. The thoughts that dominate daily life start shaping expectations, confidence, and outcomes. And that naturally leads to the next realization. Dominant thoughts don't just influence behavior, they quietly mold destiny itself. He'd sit with a friend and say, this calmly, whatever thought shows up most often eventually starts calling the shots, not because it's loud, but because it's familiar. That's how destiny quietly forms. A person who constantly thinks in scarcity, fear, or urgency ends up making rushed financial decisions, accepting bad deals, and repeating cycles they swear they want to escape. Auto-responsibilidad begins when someone understands that thoughts aren't harmless background noise, they're instructions. A mente inabalable is trained to notice patterns and interrupt them. When dominant thoughts shift from "I can't afford this" to "How do I structure this wisely?" control emotional grows. and choices start reflecting long-term prosperidad instead of short-term relief. This is where conscientia becomes practical, not philosophical. He'd explain that dominant thoughts act like mental autopilot. If someone believes money always disappears, they'll unconsciously spend it faster. If they believe effort never pays off, they'll quit too early. That's not bad luck, that's repetition shaping reality. Mentalidade forte is built by intentionally choosing which thoughts get repeated. He'd recommend daily reflection profunda, especially around money decisions, asking what belief is driving each choice. Is it fear, impatience, or clarity? When thoughts are examined instead of ignored, disciplina becomes natural. The mind learns that not every thought deserves obedience. This awareness strengthens control de impulsos and replaces emotional reactions with deliberate action, which is how resilientia is built over time. He'd then bring it down to everyday life. Think about career decisions, he'd say. Someone who constantly thinks I'm replaceable will accept disrespect, undercharge, and stay stuck. Someone who thinks I'm building value will invest in skills, negotiate better, and move strategically. Same world, different destiny, driven by dominant thought. That's poder interior in action. It's quiet, steady, and rooted in consistency. Thoughts repeated daily become habits, and habits shape outcomes. This is why growth doesn't start with income, but with identity. When dominant thoughts align with crecimiento personal, money starts following structure instead of chaos. He'd add, with a slight smile, that most people don't fail financially, they drift. And drifting is just unmanaged thinking. A trained mind replaces drifting with direction. That's forza silenciosa again, choosing better. Thoughts without needing validation. It's deciding to think long-term in a culture addicted to instant results. When dominant thoughts focus on discipline, learning, and patience, progress compounds quietly. One smart decision doesn't change a life, but repeated aligned thoughts do. This is how consistency beats intensity every single time. As he transitions, he'd gently point out that once someone understands the power of dominant thoughts, the next realization becomes obvious. If thoughts shape destiny, then the mind itself becomes the most valuable asset a person owns, and that naturally leads to understanding why the mind is not just a tool for survival, but the greatest instrument of wealth creation they'll ever have. He'd explain this with the kind of calm confidence that comes from watching patterns repeat for decades. Money, he'd say, is rarely the starting point of wealth. The mind is. Every asset, business, investment, or career leap begins as a thought held long enough to turn into action. A mente inabalable understands that income follows mindset, not the other way around. Auto-responsabilidade shows up when someone stops blaming the economy and starts managing their own thinking. With control emotional, they stop reacting to headlines, trends, and fear-based advice. Instead, they learn to think strategically, using silencio estratégico to filter noise and focus on what actually builds prosperidade over time. This is where the mind becomes a tool instead of a liability. He'd point out that wealthy thinking doesn't mean reckless risk, it means calculated decisions rooted in conscientia. The mind trained for wealth asks better questions. Does this expense grow me or distract me? Is this decision aligned with my long-term plan? That's mentalidad forte in practice. When discipline becomes a habito, money starts following intention. Small actions like tracking expenses, reinvesting raises, or delaying gratification seem boring, but they compound quietly. That's forza silenciosa again, building wealth without drama. The mind, when properly trained, creates systems that protect growth even during emotional moments. He'd bring up an everyday scenario. Two people earn the same income, yet one builds assets while the other builds debt. The difference isn't intelligence, it's mental structure. One uses foco and consistency to plan, the other lets impulses decide. A mind trained for wealth uses control de impulsos to avoid lifestyle inflation and prioritizes crecimiento pessoal over appearance. This is how resiliencia shows up financially, staying disciplined during good times so bad times don't destroy everything. Wealthy minds don't chase money. They create environments where money stays and multiplies. With a mentor's honesty, he'd say that most people never get rich because they misuse their minds. They let fear control investments, emotions control spending, and comparison control goals. A wealthy mind does the opposite. It practices reflection profunda, especially after mistakes, treating losses as lessons, not identity. That's poder interior growing stronger with every experience. The mind becomes sharper, calmer, and more strategic. Over time, decisions get cleaner, stress decreases, and confidence rises, not from ego, but from consistency. As he transitions, he'd make it clear that recognizing the mind as a wealth tool isn't enough. Tools need maintenance. Without discipline, even the best tool fails. And that realization opens the door to the next essential truth. Without auto-discipline, a mental, no strategy, income, or opportunity can sustain real success. He'd lean back and say this without sugarcoating it. Talent opens doors, but auto-discipline keeps them open. Success, especially financial, is rarely about big breakthroughs and almost always about small decisions repeated daily. Auto-discipline mental is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when emotions push in the opposite direction. That's auto-responsabilidade in its rawest form. A mente inabalável doesn't wait to feel like it. It acts based on plan, not mood. When control emotional is strong, money stops leaking through impulsive choices, and discipline starts shaping habits that quietly build prosperidad. This is where success becomes predictable, not accidental. He'd explain that discipline isn't punishment, it's structure. A disciplined mind removes unnecessary choices. Instead of debating every expense or career move, it follows pre-decided rules. That reduces stress and builds consistency. He'd use a simple example, setting a fixed savings percentage before spending anything else. No debate, no guilt, no excuses. That one rule trains the mind to obey logic over impulse. Over time, that habito strengthens mentalidad forte and resiliencia. Discipline stops feeling heavy and starts feeling freeing, because clarity replaces chaos. He'd also point out how lack of discipline shows up subtly. Skipping financial reviews, avoiding uncomfortable numbers, postponing decisions. These aren't minor lapses, they're signals of a mind avoiding responsibility. A disciplined mind faces reality directly, using consciencia and reflection profunda to adjust course early. That's força silenciosa again, fixing problems while they're still small. This approach protects growth and prevents emotional burnout. Discipline isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest with yourself consistently, with a knowing tone. He'd say most people overestimate motivation and underestimate discipline. Motivation gets credit, discipline gets results. A person with strong auto-disciplina doesn't rely on hype, trends, or pressure. They rely on routines. Morning planning, expense tracking, skill building, and regular reviews become non-negotiable. These actions build poder interior because they prove self-trust. When someone keeps promises to themselves, confidence grows naturally. That confidence then spills into career moves, negotiations, and long-term investments. As he transitions, he'd remind them that discipline alone isn't enough if the mind isn't protected. Without awareness, discipline can collapse under stress or emotion. That's why understanding what happens when mental control is lost becomes critical. Knowing the cost of unmanaged thinking is often what strengthens commitment to discipline in the first place. He'd lower his voice a bit here, not to scare, but to be real. Losing control of the mind doesn't usually look dramatic at first. It looks like small lapses that feel harmless. Emotional spending after a rough day, avoiding bank statements because they trigger anxiety, saying, "I'll fix it next month," too many times. That's how auto-responsabilidad quietly slips away. Without control emotional, the mind starts reacting instead of choosing. And once reaction becomes a habito, money follows chaos. A mente inabalable doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes through neglect. When discipline fades, impulses take over, and decisions stop serving long-term prosperidad, he'd explain that an uncontrolled mind seeks relief, not results. In moments of stress, it looks for comfort purchases, distractions, or shortcuts. This is where controle de impulsos matters most. Without it, people trade future stability for temporary calm. He'd remind them that debt is often emotional before it's financial. The mind convinces itself that just this once won't hurt, but repetition turns exceptions into patterns. Losing mental control weakens mentalidad forte and drains poder interior. Over time, confidence drops, not because of lack of ability, but because promises to oneself keep getting broken. He'd bring it into everyday life again. Think about career choices, he'd say. An unmanaged mind avoids discomfort, so it stays in unfulfilling jobs, avoids learning new skills, and fears negotiation. That's not laziness, that's fear-driven thinking. Without conscientia, the mind confuses safety with stagnation. Resiliencia fades because challenges feel heavier than they actually are. A disciplined mind sees effort as investment. An uncontrolled mind sees effort as threat. That difference alone can cost years of crecimiento pessoal. With a calm honesty, he'd say that when mental control is lost, noise takes over. Opinions, trends, social comparison, and urgency flood decision-making. Silence disappears. Silencio estratégico is replaced by constant reaction. People start consuming information instead of processing it. They spend without planning, react without thinking, and blame circumstances instead of adjusting behavior. This isn't failure, he'd stress, it's misalignment. The mind hasn't been guided, so it defaults to survival mode. But survival mode was never designed to build prosperity or consistency. As he transitions, he gently reminds them that losing control isn't permanent. Awareness is the reset button. Once someone sees the cost of unmanaged thinking, they're ready to choose differently. And that naturally opens the door to a crucial distinction most people ignore, understanding the difference between a weak desire and a desire so strong it rewires behavior completely. He'd start this one by saying that not all desires are created equal. A weak desire sounds nice, but it doesn't survive discomfort. It says, "I'd like to be financially free," but disappears the moment sacrifice shows up. A burning desire, on the other hand, rewires behavior. It's rooted in auto-responsabilidad and powered by consciencia. A mente inabalable knows the difference. Weak desire negotiates with excuses, strong desire eliminates them. That's where control emotional steps in, allowing someone to feel discomfort without quitting. In money matters, this difference shows up clearly. People with weak desire save only when it's convenient. Those with burning desire save even when it hurts a little, because their focus is locked on prosperidad, not pleasure. He'd explain that burning desire isn't emotional hype. It's clarity combined with commitment. It's knowing exactly why a goal matters and what it costs to ignore it. When desire is weak, distractions win. When desire is strong, foco sharpens naturally. He'd use a practical example. Someone who truly wants to escape debt doesn't just cut expenses. They change habits, routines, and environments. They practice control de impulsos daily, even when no one is watching. That consistency builds mentalidad forte and resiliencia, because the mind starts associating discipline with progress instead of pain. He'd point out that weak desire lives in comfort zones. It wants results without inconvenience. Strong desire accepts temporary discomfort as part of the deal. This is where forza silenciosa shows up. There's no need to announce goals or seek validation. Action speaks quietly through discipline. He'd stress that burning desire isn't obsessive in a chaotic way. It's structured. It uses planning, reflection profunda, and persistence to stay alive. The desire is fed daily by reminders, small wins, and conscious decisions that reinforce identity. With mentor-like honesty, he'd say most people don't lack ambition. They lack emotional connection to their goals. Without that connection, the mind drifts. A burning desire anchors the mind. It gives discipline meaning and transforms routine into purpose. That's poda interior, growing stronger each time someone chooses long-term stability over short-term comfort. Over time, this desire reshapes identity. The person stops asking if success is possible and starts acting as if it's inevitable. As he transitions, he'd gently guide them forward, saying that once desire reaches that level, something powerful happens. Desire stops being a wish and starts becoming obsession in a healthy, controlled way. And learning how to channel that obsession without losing balance is the next critical step on the path. If this message hit somewhere deep, don't ignore it. That discomfort you're feeling right now, that's awareness waking up. Most people will scroll away, go back to old habits, and repeat the same financial mistakes tomorrow. But if you're still here, it means your mind is ready for more. So here's the move. Commit to this journey. Subscribe to the channel, because every video here is designed to sharpen your focus, strengthen your discipline, and build a mindset that actually leads to prosperity, not just motivation. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next lesson, because what comes next will challenge the way you think about money, choices, and control even more deeply. And before you leave, drop a comment answering this honestly. What habit do you know is holding your financial life back right now? Say it out loud. Awareness is the first act of power. Stay sharp, stay disciplined, and remember, when you master your mind, everything else starts to fall into place. Napoleon Hill,